My name is Paul Angelone. I'm a Senior Director with the Advisory Services Program, and I'm joined here with Jim Heid. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Paul. Great to see you again.
Do you mind telling me a little bit about yourself?
How much time you got? Just kidding. So I'm live in California. I'm a landscape architect by training. Went on, did real estate finance at some point in my career. And now I spend a lot of my time focused on either development strategy advisory work that kind of incorporates sustainability and smart growth and resilience, or other day job is doing development, small infill development projects here in my hometown of Healdsburg, California.
Oh, wonderful. And how many advisory services panels have you been on?
It's I think I have done 14 or 15.
Well, good. It's hard to keep track of all of them. And why do you serve on panels? There's
a number of things that I do with ULI, and I think serving on panels is probably one of the top 2 or 3 things that I get to do, aside from some of the instructional work that I do and program work. And it's probably 3 main things. It's, first of all, it's the intellectual challenge that's been put forward by the sponsor. So they're always really difficult problems, and the questions that you end up focusing on are never what the sponsor asks you. So there's a bit of an unearthing of the problem that goes on first, and then you come up with this aha moment, and it's a breakthrough for everybody. So that always feels good. I think the second thing is you just meet some incredible people. So every panel that I've been on, you always walk away with relationships that last. My first panel was 1994, and some of those people I still, consider great friends and colleagues and love to see at the annual meeting. So there's a bond that gets created in that week of, sleepless nights that's really strong. And then the other thing is just being able to create some impact. It's amazing to look back over the panels that I've been on, and you look back 5, 10 years of what you recommended and how those have actually been evidenced or taken into, put into place, and have actually made a difference. So it's good.
Good. And then of those 14 or 15 panels that you've been on, do you have a particularly favorite one or memorable moment?
Again, I mean, there's memories on all of them. Some of them are from the food. Remember that one you and I did together in Covington, Louisiana? That was probably the best meals we've ever had. Although it was rivaled by the one in Sun Valley. The Sun Valley one was excellent food too. But the really memorable one was the one that I got. It was the first one I ever got to chair. I got asked to be the chair probably 5 days before the panel, and it was in Moscow, Russia. So it was one of the very first international panels that ULI had done, and it was with Tom Murphy, who was the other U.S. Constituent, and then everybody else was from Europe. So it was memorable for a couple of reasons. The first one was, they said all of the panel was non-U.S., they were European, and I'd never been on a panel where there were so many people who were cross-trained in their disciplines. So in the U.S., you typically get architects, or you get economists, or you get a market analysis, and these were people who was a transportation planner, but he was also an economist, or they were a market analyst and they were an architect. And so you had this incredible richness of skills and thought that I just had never seen in such an integrated way. And then the other thing was the problem. We'd basically been brought in by the mayor of Moscow to effectively refute it was literally Putin's request to move the Kremlin out of the center of the city, out to the green fields about 100 kilometers south, onto a bunch of land that a bunch of his friends owned. So you can just imagine all the political intrigue that went on behind the scenes there. And that day when we finally presented our recommendation as nicely as we could, that it was not the appropriate time to move the capital, and the reasons they were suggesting they do that were not really well-founded in current thinking about urbanism. So it was great. It was a really great experience, and fabulous city, and great group of people to work with.
But are there any particular lessons that you took from that panel that you've applied to your work in the U.S. or other places?
That was a pretty high bar panel, both in terms of where it was and the challenge that we've been given. So, and I'm not sure a lot of lessons. I mean, it was how do you tell something that's politically incorrect, but environmentally and urbanism wise was the correct answer, and tell it to 500 people with the paper there. So that was probably the only lesson there. I think the other lessons, maybe across all of the panels, I'm always shocked because we spend so much time at ULI and I spend so much time in my business talking about best practices. And I think over the last 2 decades, we've really come to embrace and understand smart growth, compact development, urbanism, greenhouse gas implications of how we develop land. It's almost become second nature to us. And I'm always shocked that when you roll out some of these recommendations that in some ways are kind of a 101 on good planning, how many people are like, oh my God, that was like so brilliant. We've never thought about that. So in a lot of ways, there's a credibility that comes forward by, we think we've all accepted that and we need to be moving on to the next big thing. And in a lot of ways, the lesson maybe is we just need a very consistent message about how we should be developing, and we just need more people to hear it on a regular basis to get where we need to go. So.
Perfect. Is there anything else you want to let to say? Kind of final closing thoughts?
No, it's just, I think it's a great program. I will say, I think because I know there are other professional organizations that do this. AIA has their STEP process. The APA has their PEN process. But the reason that I put my time into the ULI is because it is so cross-disciplined. And secondly, because it is so focused on actionable outcomes. And I think the others, while they're very important to the communities they serve, they tend to be more academic studies of what could be versus ULI's emphasis on what really needs to happen and how you start. What do you do on Monday? What do you do a year from Monday? And what you should be doing, 5 years from Monday. So that's kind of ULI's. I think it's in their DNA, and the people that are participating in ULI. It is about action and meaningful, practical solutions that get to a greater good, as opposed to just thinking about some of the esoteric of what we should be doing. This is like, how do you get there, especially when you're navigating tough political situations, community activism, market economics, which rarely, I think, get recognized or understood by the other groups. So I think it's unique in that sense. I also think it's unique in the way and what it can do for communities in helping community leadership understand the challenges and the integrated nature of these problems. There are no silver bullet, simple solutions left anymore. These are highly complex problems. I think ULI's both methodology and their perspective that they bring to this is uniquely suited to really help solve these things right now. So.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your words of wisdom.
Yeah, well, it was great seeing you again, great catching up, and always happy to talk about the panel process. So.